In life, some things just go well together. Heavy metal and the devil. Beer and chicken wings. Matt Hardy and pure unadulterated insanity.
Delete
But one team up that does seem like a match made in heaven is Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. In 1995, both directors were on a pretty solid roll. Tarantino had released Pulp Fiction the year before. Robert Rodriguez had just put out the second film in his Mexico trilogy, Desperado. The two had worked together on projects in the past. Tarantino even had a role in Desperado, but they'd never worked together on something collaborative. So after the idea for a movie was made by effects master Robert Kurtzman, both directors became attached to the project, and they split the work, with Tarantino writing the script and Rodriguez directing. And what we got out of it was one of the most insane, crazy vampire flicks you'll ever see in your life. From Dusk Till Dawn follows a group of people making their way across the Mexican border, two ruthless killers and a family in an RV who are taken hostage by them. They make it to their rendezvous point to meet their contact in a cozy little bar on the outskirts of town called the Titty Twister. They try to lay low, but one thing leads to another, and after a small fight, it's revealed that all the employees in the bar are vampires who use the patrons to feed upon at night. So the group has to band together, kill all the monsters they can before the bar is overrun, or before the sun comes up first.
Welcome to slavery.
No thanks. I already have a wife.
When you watch From Dusk Till Dawn for the first time, you notice something you probably weren't expecting. It takes a full hour before the creatures actually show up. It's kind of like Full Metal Jacket, where you could have expanded on both halves of the movie and had two completely different films with the same characters. And this one starts off with a pretty awesome criminal road trip movie.
Do they have an X-rated channel?
No.
Do they have a waterbed?
Nope.
What do they got?
They have 4 walls and a roof, and that's all we need.
Who would have thought that one of my favorite on-camera duos would have been George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino? Now look, Tarantino is not a great actor, and there's only so much that Clooney can do with what he's given, so there's really no reason for why these two should work well on screen, but they do. They seem to have pretty good chemistry, their conversations seem natural, and you do actually believe their relationship.
Was it possibly when your ass was rotting in jail and I broke it out? Was that the nuttiest thing? That was nutty, not to mention stupid.
Not to mention that they picked the exact right one of the two to be an unhinged psychopath.
Richard, what's wrong with you?
Before you flip out, okay, let me just explain what happened, right?
Explain it to me.
Here's the real kicker, though. This is considered to be George Clooney's first major film role. He'd done a lot of television in the past and even some horror films when he was just starting out, like a lot of people, but this was one of his first high-profile gigs. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
I'm really, really sorry.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
If it were up to you, if you had half a chance, you would feed us to those fucks.
And I love the family that's taken hostage. Pretty much all of them are good characters. Jacob, played by Harvey Keitel, has one of the most believable arcs in the story, going from a preacher who's lost his faith after the death of his wife to being the greatest ass-kicking religious figure in the movie.
Have seen.
Notice I didn't say the greatest ass-kicking religious figure in movie history, because that honor still goes to the priest from Dead Alive.
I kick ass for the Lord.
I gotta say, like, in the early 90s, Juliette Lewis had a lot of great roles in horror films, mostly as an innocent who's thrust into horrifying situations with her family. And in this one, watching her transition from hostage to zombie killer is one of the most enjoyable paths to follow. The brother has some cool moments too, especially the interactions between him and Jacob, which seem pretty relatable. There were no other really big roles on his IMDb page, and if he hasn't been in anything else, it's kind of a shame because he was really into this role and he wasn't bad. But there are so many other great actors in this. The card was stacked. Michael Parks is in here, playing the same role he played in Grindhouse, despite being pretty dead, all things considered. Cheech Marin as not only the guard at the border, but also as the hype man in the Titty Twister and as the Gecko Brothers' contact at the end of the movie.
Hey, Seth. It's time to go.
I really hope he got 3 paychecks for that, because they were not the same character. Not to mention everybody else. Danny Trejo, Selma Hayek, Fred Williamson, Tom Savini. This movie had one hell of a cast. And you get to see most of them transformed into vampires, which is awesome. And apropos of nothing, the set for the Titty Twister is amazing. The layout of the place is so unique and interesting. It leads to a lot of good scenes. I mean, look at the appearance of the bar itself. It's got flame shooting out the side of it. There's also the fact that it's located on top of an ancient Aztec pyramid, but, you know, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. Like most good things in the horror industry, the effects here were done by Kurtzman, Nicotero, and Bergman, and they really lived up to their reputation. The regular blood effects are pretty good, with some great gunshot and stab effects throughout, plus some random dude that gets set on fire by George Clooney. Breakthrough Performance of the Year award winner, George Clooney. Never forget that. But I think the best part is the design for the vampires. They all look really crazy, giving you more than just a simple pale-skinned, sharp-toothed vampire cliches. And pretty much all of them die in different ways, too. Some of them are staked, some of them are shot, and some of them are blown right the hell up. And remember, these are just the designs that actually made it into the film. There were a few effects that were shot, but were so gruesome that Tarantino asked for them to be cut, saying they were too graphic. Quentin Tarantino said that something was too graphic. I don't actually know if I want to see what he's talking about. But pretty much all the action in this film is fun to watch, because if there's one thing that Robert Rodriguez knows how to do, it's make a crazy, fun, balls-to-the-wall experience. And when shit hits the fan, all the humans in the bar work together pretty well, and all their personalities even play into how they fight. A lot of them even have weapons that are signature to their characters. Alright, there are so many things about this movie that I love that are just little touches that really make this stand out for me. So you know what? In no order, here's a couple of my favorite little touches. All of the improvised weapons that they came up with in the storage room, including that holy water pistol and the jackhammer stake, that's just awesome. Tom Savini bringing up Hammer horror films when they're talking about making crosses.
All you gotta do is put two sticks together. You got a cross.
Yeah, he's right. Peter Cushing does that all the time.
The band transforming, revealing that they've been playing instruments made out of dead bodies. And probably my favorite moment in the film, which is when Cheech Marin's character at the end explains why the Titty Twister, of all places, is where he decided to have their meetup.
You never been here before?
No. I drove by it a couple times. It's a rowdy place. It's on the middle of nowhere. There'll be no cops.
Because of course he's never gone in. He's still alive.
Are you a faithless preacher? Or are you a mean motherfucking servant of God?
I'm a mean servant of God.
Now, the film on its own is a whole lot of fun, but I actually have the collector's edition, and it comes with a bonus disc called Full Tilt Boogie. And Full Tilt Boogie is a full-length documentary on how the movie was made, what filming was like, and just how much the cast and crew got wrecked on a regular basis. It is a fun watch all the way through, mostly for the extra footage that's thrown in, including a full intro sequence with Quentin and Clooney in character walking out to the set.
What's your name again?
Houston.
Give me an H.
Okay, do you have some ID?
And after watching the documentary, I gotta say, I was a fan of the movie to begin with, but now I am so impressed and amazed that this movie was made at all. They filmed in 120-degree weather. They were constantly barraged by dust storms and accidentally blew up the outside of the bar in a massive fireball.
No, we weren't supposed to burn the facade down, no.
But here's the biggest shocker in all this. All of the movie's production was done with a non-union crew. That is almost unheard of for a high-budget film like this. But Tarantino and Rodriguez took pride in making their films independently and thought the unions would put too much limits on what they could actually do every day to get the film made. So the IATSE targeted the film, and there was the constant threat of strikes during production. Hell, one of the most uplifting parts of the documentary isn't when the film is actually completed, but when the crew finds out that they're all going to get health insurance.
And anybody who worked over 30 days will get a full year of health care.
And considering the fact that everything was exploding around them and they were dying of heat exhaustion, it's kind of the least they could do.
What the fuck was going on in there?
It's a great thing that this movie actually got made, though, because this end product is a fantastic watch every time. Each director gets to indulge in what makes their work so much fun, sometimes to crazy excess. Robert Rodriguez gets to have his longtime contributors in high-profile roles, and Quentin Tarantino gets to write some awesome dialogue for them to say. Robert Rodriguez gets to turn the last 40 minutes of the film into an insane bloodbath, and Tarantino gets to build up to that with a fantastic set of scenes involving the Gecko brothers and their hostages. Robert Rodriguez gets to kill Quentin Tarantino on set, and Tarantino gets to indulge in his weird foot stuff with Selma Hayek before it happens. Everybody wins. All in all, this is just a fun ride the entire time. And yeah, it's got some tone problems, and it shifts pretty dramatically into a vampire movie with no build-up whatsoever, but it's so cool and so funny and all in all entertaining, you don't really need to focus on the negatives. It's one of those perfect movies that you can just put on, sit back, and enjoy the madness. And if you expected anything else from Tarantino and Rodriguez, you obviously haven't seen Grindhouse.
Now let's kill that fucking band.
Fuck you, everybody. Good night!
Next time, we're going to look at a kids movie. No, really. We are.